You're listening to the Love Your Neighbor podcast.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Links podcast. It's great to have with us a guest. We're sponsored today again by Kingbird Coffee and Flyboy Donuts.
Yes.
Which is an awesome sponsor to have.
Oh, it's amazing. Michael Gross and his family are amazing. It's awesome. It's a great place.
Great folks. And today we're sponsored by the Chocolate Donut.
Yes.
Thanks to our guest, Mr. Jeremy Risty.
Ooh.
So
Yes.
this is your favorite, isn't it?
It is. I love. I'm a chocolate guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my waistline reflects that. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that. We had we had a recent guest here who I found out. I was like, our guest. It looks so familiar to me. I was like, why do I know this person so well? She works at B&G.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah.
Now I know. But she definitely student at Brandon Valley High School, teacher at Brandon Valley High School.
Yes.
You are one of her favorite teachers.
Oh, she's a sweetheart.
Yeah. So
I paid her to say that, by the way.
that must be on your salary. That must be quite expensive. Though.
It is. Yes.
Because a lot of students have said, Mr.
Well,
Risty is my favorite teacher.
She has a lot of IOUs from me.
Okay.
Back payments.
That's great. That's great. I've always told. I told Matt this. I haven't told you this, but you're like kind of living out like my dream. Like my dream is to be a high school history teacher.
Awesome.
And now you're living my dream.
Well, I appreciate that vicariously. No, it's a great job. I love it. I can't imagine myself doing anything different.
Yeah. When did you first get the idea that, hey, I want to be a teacher? When did that come across?
When I was in high school, I knew I had kind of a passion for history. My dad was a big history guy and stuff like that. And during the summers, I would frequently check out like history books at the library, and I was that dork. And I always knew I wanted to help people. So I think early on, those two passions just kind of merged, and did some job shadowing when I was in high school and such. Actually, it's kind of funny. When I was a senior, I job shadowed with Greg Talcott, who ended up being the high school principal I worked for 12, 15 years, whatever it was. I don't even know. So I kind of got a taste there. And then when I got to school at USD, I just kind of said, this is, I think, where I want to go. And the rest, as they say, is history. Ha ha ha.
They always say stuff, don't they?
Oh, man. Always.
I love them. They're such good people. Yeah, same. I mean, same for me. I enjoyed that. I went to school and got a degree in education, and for some of the same reasons. So that's cool. Talk to me a little bit historically. Like that's more than just your job. Like it's spilled over into your after school hours. Talk about history and your role in the community of Brandon for those that don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the Risty name is a little bit, I don't know if it's famous or infamous in Brandon, but it sure is long. We were actually one of the founding families of Brandon, have been here since the 1870s. And so I kind of got connected with the Brandon Historical Society. They used to have like a little presentation and such, and they asked me if I would do so as a history teacher, and so I kind of got connected with them, and eventually, long story short, they asked me to be their president, and I was like, you guys really don't know what you're getting into, but so they asked me to be their president, and I said sure, that'd be great, I appreciate that, and so for about the last 8 years or so, I've been president of the Brandon Historical Society, and we've been kind of going through a few changes. We've done a few things in the community. A lot of people may know us from the Graph Cabin down in Pioneer Park. We restored it's the oldest wooden structure in Brandon. Dates back to 1870. So we moved that and restored that and opened that to the public, and just trying to do a variety of things there.
Yeah, awesome. Moving to Brandon just 6 years ago,
Yeah.
I quickly became aware of that Risty name, and I was out golfing with a friend of mine, and we got partnered up with a Risty, and he used to live. He built the house across from Casey's there. And we were talking Risty stuff, and so that was your connection. Give us the lineage there, the family history in brief.
Yes,
because there's so many people listening to this podcast that are new to Brandon like me.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
have no clue.
And it's kind of interesting. That's one of the challenges we've had of the Brandon Historical Society is there are very few people in Brandon that have roots here. Most people don't know. I mean, the vast majority of people in Brandon have only lived here for, say, 10 years or less. We've seen this explosive growth in Brandon in the last, 10, 15, 20 years, and it's really hard to get people to care about a place that they don't really know the history of, and that's been our challenge as the Historical Society. But long story short, so the Risty family came over from Norway through Decorah, Iowa, which was very common for a lot of Norwegian immigrants. They came into Chicago, trained at Decorah, and then basically walked or rode from there to this area. And so there was several siblings, 6, 7 siblings. Several of the siblings stayed in Brandon, and 2 brothers went off to Springfield, which is basically by Good Earth State Park today. So my great-great-grandfather, his farm was Good Earth State Park. So all the Risties in Brandon are like my, second or third cousins, however many removed.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the people who are in Brandon today, a lot of the Risties in Brandon today, their great-great-grandfathers or whatever, and my great-great-grandfather were brothers.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you all came together.
Correct.
But Good Earth, Springfield.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. So, Springdale. I apologize. Springdale. Yeah.
Springdale,
So
yeah.
like Springdale Lutheran Church and stuff like that. That was donated by my family.
Okay.
And then Good Earth State Park over the years and things like that. So yeah.
So some deep roots. What was the draw to this area? Obviously, the rivers coming.
Yep.
A lot of the forestry was a draw.
Yep.
Was there anything else beyond that drew the Risties and others to the Brandon area?
The river was the big one, and the river comes not only fresh water, which was in short supply in the Great Plains, very arid, and then you also have access to wood along the riverbanks, which was also very uncommon during the time period. Access to fresh fish, mussels, things like that. Which we wouldn't know it today, but a lot of people, like if you look at the diaries, they talk about how the Big Sioux River was so clear that you could see 5 feet down and you could, be noodling, which is like, fishing with your hands, you could do that. And so not like today.
Right. Different. Yeah.
Very different. But it was also relatively close to Sioux Falls. Relatively close to the borders of Iowa and Minnesota, relatively near train lines. When Brandon really started, I guess, taking off for that, I guess it might be a little strong because it was, Brandon was 500 people until about 1965.
Yeah, right.
Super small.
Yeah.
And so really, when the train line came through, that's when we saw some modest growth as well. But it really wasn't until the interstate highway system that we really saw, the population begin to grow. The banks came to Sioux Falls, kind of, the bedroom community type feel kind of happened, where people would work in Sioux Falls, live in Brandon. And we've only seen that grow, obviously, in the last, again, 10, 15 years especially.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that Brandon really isn't even, as an incorporated city, is not even 50 years old.
Correct.
But there's been people living in our neighborhood going back 150 years.
Correct. Yep.
I saw the Brandon Lutheran celebrated their 150th birthday. It was like 150 years ago.
Yeah. It's a little deceiving.
Yeah.
It's a little deceiving.
Yeah. So we're kind of newcomers then.
Very much so. Most of Brandon is.
Yeah, we're newcomers, historically.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
I think that sometimes I talk about this idea that we're, a lot of us in our culture today, we're born on third base, think we hit a triple.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I even my generation, I think, talk about younger generation, you're in contact with the younger generation every day. But to think about us even in our generation as being newcomers to this part of the world, really.
Yeah. Yep.
So
very much so.
Good perspective. Talk a little bit about your family, Jeremy. Now you have your own family that you're growing. And,
yes.
And talk a little bit about your family.
So my wife, Becca, who's a saint, and she's a nurse practitioner at Sanford. She does women's health and super proud of the work she does. She's a very caring individual, and been blessed to be her partner in life for the last 21 years. And then I have 3 children. My oldest, Anna, is a senior, and she's going to go to USD and be a English teacher. She wants to study English education. And then my son, Thomas, is a sophomore, and not sure exactly what he's going to do. He's kind of the wild card. He doesn't really know, but he's a football player, does orchestra as well. Anna does orchestra, my oldest. And then my youngest is a freshman. And she's Emma, and she's interested in medical, but she is just a little spitfire, and she's kind of your stereotypical youngest. She's kind of, a little ornery sometimes, but they're all just tremendous blessings. They're really, really good kids. So we've been pretty fortunate.
Yeah, well, I think it's some good parents. Sounds like.
Well, one of them. Thank God for my wife.
Okay, well, I do the same.
Yeah, no kidding.
To use a football analogy, I like you outkick my coverage.
Oh, totally outkick my coverage. Yeah.
I didn't even
absolutely.
I didn't get a fair catch. It was like it was so far over the head.
I'm just gonna let that one go.
Yeah,
that's going in the end zone. Yep.
Get started on the 20.
That's right.
Or is it the 25 now?
I think I don't even know.
Is it? It's the 25.
Yeah, 25. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, we were right.
Our producer is helping us with that. I love watching you on the sidelines. I mean, I'm a football coach, football guy, but I love watching you work at the sidelines with the other coaches. Talk a little bit about your involvement in the Brandon community as a football coach. Not something I think that you would say. You don't have to do that, but you do it. Like you're involved. Why football? Talk about that involvement and how you're involved and what you do.
Yeah. So I've been a volunteer assistant for the program for there'll be 17th season coming up here this next season. So I've been doing this for 16 years now, full seasons, and the next year will be 17. I coach mostly defensive line, especially defensive ends. It's kind of nice because we have quite a few defensive linemen, so it's nice to be able to break up because as we Coach C and I have talked about, defensive tackles, defensive ends really don't have the same jobs. They're kind of different guys, different athletes, different responsibilities. So it's kind of nice being able to break up like that. I love the game of football, and I've been coaching ever since I started teaching, and I just think that coaches have such a impact on kids, and I think you can reach kids in a different way and kind of influence their lives a little bit differently than you can inside the classroom. I think coaches have a way of reaching some of those kids that might not necessarily respond in the same environment like in a classroom. So it's kind of a way to kind of marry those ideas of a love for a sport, but also use that sport to build better people. And still, I mean, we've talked about this. Coach C and I've talked about this quite a bit. Like football is a great game. It's like one big chess match that's constantly evolving, and it's the greatest team sport. You have to get all 11 guys on the same page, or it's not going to turn out well for you. And that's the whole goal of a football team, is to get all those guys on the same page. And it's just a really fun sport that I just have a real passion for. I don't know if I'm any good at it, but I really enjoy it, and it's awesome to be able to do that. And they help me hang around and feel like I'm important.
Volunteer is code for we can't pay you what you're worth, but we're willing to take a bet that you love it enough that you'll do it for free.
Just do it. Yeah, it's fun.
Even with that ridiculous salary that the Historical Society pays you. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dollar bills.
Yeah. I understand. You got to feed the family, right?
I know. Take one for the team. Literally, in this case, I guess.
I get it. I'm the same situation. Yeah. So that's cool that you get to really, live out your purpose, and you get to be a part of that with high school kids. And maybe in another podcast we can go a little bit more into some of that football stuff. But
sure.
I appreciate what you do. I've seen seen the impact certainly around our community. What does community mean to you? This purpose of this podcast and the purpose of sharing it with others is to build community, just one conversation at a time. What's community for you, Jeremy? How do you define it? How do you
Yeah, I think community, in my opinion, is everybody kind of pulling in the same direction, and that's for the betterment of each other. I think, unfortunately, sometimes it's very common in today's society where, people come home from their work, they open up their garage door, they shut their garage door, and then they forget about everything else in the outside world, and then, you never see them again. And I think that there's so much that can and should be done outside of that, outside of the walls of your home or church or business or whatever the case may be. So I think community to me is just getting people to pull in the same direction for the betterment of all. You can see that, in the relationship the city has with the school. I mean, I think we have a great relationship together. I think you see it in the, in the way, in my own experiences, and the way the city and the historical society kind of work together to try to tell the story of a community. Like, as you mentioned, people might not necessarily be familiar with, or, I'm also involved in the Brandon Valley Optimist Club, where we, fund programs that help youth in a variety of ways, and, sponsor programs and things of scholarship in essay programs and whatever else. So I think it's just trying to improve the lives of everybody so that everybody can win, everybody can participate, everybody has a say, and just generally moving forward together as a community, as a group, as a people. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a great vision. I believe that, and I believe everybody wants that.
Yeah,
and I believe everybody needs that, and our job, as people in the community, is to help others, like you said, helping others see that and then move in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been a treat. I think we've at least taken a step closer to helping others understand a little bit more about Brandon.
Yeah, and, I hope so.
Maybe on another podcast we'll talk about defensive football and topics.
The 4-3 versus the 3-4.
Yeah, you see, I was a center, so I hate the 3-4.
Oh,
because anytime you get somebody like barreling down I hate that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I have a hard job. Centers have a hard job.
Absolutely.
And then you have a big old, foul smelling, unconscionably large human being breathing down your neck with no job other than to make your life miserable.
With harmful intentions.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were talking. Anyway, we won't. That's another podcast.
I think I'm up to like 5 podcasts now. Yeah. So,
well, thank you.
Cheers.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Flyboy Donut.
Thank you for joining us on the Love Your Neighbor podcast. The purpose of the Love Your Neighbor podcast is to build community one conversation at a time. You can help us build that community by sharing the podcast on your social media channels and rating our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from. Another way is to let us know of any neighbors who have a story. Go Leaks!